A very good evening to one and all present here. Learn from yesterday, live for today, hope for tomorrow. With this quote, in this pleasant evening, to refresh and create an impact onto the mind, Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering, Savita Engineering College brings to you a webinar on Preparing for a Better Tomorrow by Mr. Rajkumar Balakrishnan as a part of our Impression series by SEC ECE alumni. Savita Engineering College, established in the year 2001, an autonomous institution which follows the Finland-based education model, and we march towards less is more concept. Our college makes the students job ready by providing Industry 4.0 ready curriculum, which imparts the 21st century skills. Project-based learning integrated with subjects improve the student skill set and makes our learners to be the best, which is the motto of a college. The Department of ECE was established in the year 2001. Our vision is to develop the department into a state of art with center of excellence in electronics and communication engineering education on par with global standards. The Department of ECE has well experienced faculty of proven ability and diverse specialization. The faculty actively involves themselves in research in the fields of robotics, VLSI, MEMS, image processing, and embedded systems. Now, I would like to introduce our guest of the day. Mr. Rajkumar Balakrishnan completed his bachelor's in ECE in the year 2011. He started his career as an analyst in Flex and took responsibilities from auditing electronic compliance in the local markets to accomplishment of faster timeliness of chips to market. In the year 2012, he started off as the solution consultant in Wipro Technologies and served as the solution and implementation consultant for Wipro's enterprise mobility practice. From 2016, Mr. Rajkumar works as the solution architect in the Royal Agrifirm Group BV at Netherlands and is responsible for building and running reliable services through a holistic group of Azure services. He is passionate not only about technology and tools, but explores new things from jazz dance to taking up piano lessons, cooking to content development. Having technical expertise in .NET Core, Web, API, AZ functions, even Grid, Azure DevOps, Mr. Rajkumar Balakrishnan currently serves as the solution architect in Royal Agrifirm Group BV, Netherlands. We are very happy to you with us, sir. You may please take over the session now.
Ma'am, thank you so much for the kind introduction. Just to be certain, do you all still hear me?
Yes,
Okay.
Rajkumar.
Cool. I'm going to start sharing my screen and maybe set a context to what we're going to do today. So, well, with one final ask, if you're able to see my screen, then I'm going to get going. So, are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Well, it's quite difficult, to run a virtual conference or a seminar, so to speak. It completely changes the dynamics from having an experience to be able to see all of you face to face. Either ways, now that we are here, I wish you a very pleasant evening. My name is Rajkumar Balakrishnan. You can call me Raj. And I'm very glad that I have an opportunity to be able to talk to all of you today about how do we prepare for a better tomorrow. So, distinguished professors, thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to be able to share today. And all of you for taking time off of your schedule. I know most of you have completed your 12th standard, and this is perhaps not the best moment to sit down and listen to someone speak. Rather, you could be doing something else. But then you've made a choice of come here. I'm super glad, and I'll try and make it worthwhile. If I'm not able to try and make it worthwhile, at least I'll keep it short. Yeah. So as I sat down yesterday, reconsidering the content that I have to share for today's session, which is how do we prepare for a better tomorrow, I also got myself thinking, well, everybody who spoke on a similar topic 2 years ago or even a year ago never got this topic correct. Today, we are put in a situation that we were completely unprepared for. Now, no matter to what conversation we join in these days, everyone is talking about the pandemic that we're experiencing today. So, technically speaking, nobody got this right today. So, in what right conscience and mind can I be advising or even suggesting that we could be preparing for a better tomorrow right today? Because tomorrow, as we know, has its own uncertainties. And that's also the reason why I've striked tomorrow. Now, but again, on the other side, it doesn't have to be very difficult. It, well, people who graduated from Harvard or people who graduated from another university in a developing country, they are all being presented with the same problem. And in fact, they're in the exact same position in the solutioning level. So, well, the problem is not different to a one graduated from Harvard, neither it is different to the one graduated in a regular or a developing country. So that is not making any difference. So, moral of the story, well, we could be only certain with certain things. There are a lot of uncertainties around us. We could be only prepared with certain aspects where we have control over. And there are so many other aspects where we do not have any particular control over. And maybe on the aspects that we have good control over are the aspects where we can excel in getting prepared. So, for today's session, I'm not going to keep it very long, like I told you in the beginning. We're going to talk about three simple stories that I have listened from few other speakers, and I'm just going to have it presented right before you. And maybe you could go back, listen to the full version of these stories from the speaker themselves. Each of the slide following will have a YouTube link to the full version of the story. And we're going to pick up some lessons from each of the story and go forward with it. So, if I would ask you, what is Archimedes' principle? Chances are you're going to Google it and maybe type an answer in the chat box. Why? Because we did not care who Archimedes was, we did not care what his principle was. But if I ask you, if you would remember the story of a thirsty crow, where the crow was very thirsty, it flew around, it dropped the stones into the container having water, but the water was very low. And it started dropping stones, the water came up and it drank the water, which is exactly Archimedes' principle. The way we are learning things, we remember stories, we do not remember who most of the times we do not remember who narrated the stories or in what conditions were the story narrated. But we have a context to the story itself. So, with this quick point, I'm going to drift off to the first lesson. Friends, we all want to change the world. We all want to change our experiences of a family. We all want to get to a better place than where we are today. And everybody's got a notebook full of things to do and accomplish. But if you want to change the world that you're living in today, you may want to start off by making your bed. When you wake up every single morning, the bed that you get up from, are we certain that we are able to make it up before we go to the next task of brushing your teeth or getting on with your regular stuff? This is perhaps the most simple thing somebody could do. And this is extracted from the speech delivered by William McRaven, who is a US Navy admiral, in his commencement speech at the University of Austin, Texas. So he says, if you want to change the world, start off by making your bed because that's the most simplest thing that you can get, that you can start your day with. And when you complete that, it gives you a fulfillment of one task being done. So you can go to the next task. So there is a sense of accomplishment in finishing up simple things of the day. If you want to change the world, I'm going to say again, you have to start off by making your bed, which is the most simple thing you can get started with. The other story is something that I heard from Captain Raghuram, who was the former NatGrid CEO and intelligence grid by the government of India. And he was narrating a story about him joining the armed forces. So his first day in the academy. So within the armed forces, apparently, the students are categorized into three large divisions. So the third termers, the second termers, and the first termers. The third termers, so to speak, are the most smartest, and second termers follow them, first termers afterwards. So the point is, Captain Raghuraman, who joined the armed forces, was belonging to the first termer group, and he had his first lesson. And during his first lesson, the instructor walked in and he asked a question. So, students, welcome. Do you all have any? Do you have any problems that you want to report about? Is settling in and everything looks all right, or do you want to, share some concerns? Then Captain Raman, being this, smart, inquisitive boy, he raised his hand and he said, "You know what? There is a problem when we wake up in the morning, we do not get our tea and biscuits because the third termers are eating away our tea, the share of our tea and our biscuits." So, well, so the instructor said, okay, apparently you first termers, you do not get your share of tea and biscuits early morning. All right, I'll see about it. So later that afternoon, the instructor went on rounds uh, towards the living quarters of Captain Raghuram. And when the instructor was around there, you know what he did? He actually called all the third termers outside. He asked them, he made their life miserable. So, looking at an army setting, you can imagine that the instructor visiting the living quarters and asking all the third termers, to back roll, front roll, and they were put through a rigorous regiment to an extent where they started bleeding. So the instructor asked, "Is this how you treat your first termers? This is absolutely not fair." So he did this, and the instructor left. Now the third term is being, tormented for this duration. You know what they did? They called the second termers out. So, because the third termers do not directly talk to the first termers, they made the lives of second termers super hell. And once that session was done, the second termers called the first termers, and then they made their lives terrible. So, this one problem that was raised by Captain Raman eventually made that entire platoon, pay the price. So he shares this excellent story, or this excellent lesson from the story. The next day, the instructor walked into the class and asked again, "Do you have any problems to report?" And everybody stayed put because that simple problem yesterday that was reported, that costed everybody. Well, it was a simple thing. So one of the lessons that he shares, don't sweat the small stuff. There are going to be a lot of things that we want to be complaining about. That this is not correct, the system is not right, our examination is, screwed up, and there is bias here, bias there. So there's going to be a lot of things here and there and we will have to be careful where we put our focus. So the first thing that we were discussing is the story from Admiral of the U.S. Navy, where he talks about if you want to change the world, you start off by making your bed. And there are a lot of little things that's going to come in our life that we do not have to really sweat about it. Take life as it comes, cherish the little things, and I would definitely suggest you to listen to the rest of that conversation by Captain Ramu, and it's quite an interesting story to see how he came through different situations and the lessons he shares. And there's another story about shared by Celeste Headley, uh, where she says, "Well, everybody is an expert at something. Have a conversation." Friends, no matter whom we meet every day, be it could be your professor or your lecturer in mathematics to a person who is a street vendor, there is always something to learn from everyone. So, well, there is this habit of conversation which is quite difficult for kids of this generation, given that most of our conversation is on WhatsApp and Snapchat. It is getting harder and harder as we hear from a lot of people that one of the biggest challenge these days is to teach kids of this generation as to how to have a comprehensive conversation. So no matter whom you meet every day, there is always something to learn from. And one of the best ways to do that is by starting to have a conversation. Mark Zuckerberg at the University of Harvard did not seem to make a lot of friends. However, the first day when he went to the college, he wore his t-shirt, front side. He reversed his t-shirt, so the back side of the t-shirt was on the front, and the front of the t-shirt was on his back. And apparently, many people thought he was a weird guy, and people did not seem to have make a connection with him. Later, when he goes on to share the same story in a commencement speech at Harvard. And however, there were a couple of guys they got together, who still liked Mark, and not for what he wore, but for who he was. And they happened to have a conversation, and he says, "You've got to be nice to people because the friends that he met at Harvard today, they run the largest divisions of Facebook." So, well, the idea is not to expect something in return, to have, a friendship or to have a conversation or to doing something, expecting something in return, most of the time doesn't work. But the belief system that everybody is an expert at something gives us a sense of respect towards individuals. So when today we're all apart, we're all by ourselves in our own bedrooms, and doing a lot of stuff, listening to conversations. Today's classes are being delivered. Today graduation ceremonies are getting virtual. A lot of things, the dynamics of a lot of things have changed to an extent that we never anticipated that it is going to change that way. And yeah, so we human race has a history of wading through challenges, and they've always been successful. And there's no doubt we will be successful even through this situation. Eventually, we will be successful. But the bottom line here, given the fact that we are getting more and more individualistic, more and more apart, do not lose the aspect of being able to have a conversation with someone and have that conversation without expecting anything in return. Um, there are, we students being raised in the Indian culture, we have this habit of the where we sit through classes for about 8 to 8.5 hours every single day. And every single day we are conditioned to listen for 8.5 hours for about good 15 to 16 years of our lives. But then we are not, or we are never completely taught on how to listen, how to have a conversation. I do not remember having any subject in my school or in my college that particularly taught how should you have a conversation, or at least I do not remember one. But friends, today this is becoming a very important aspect for uh, you know for the fact that we are living together as a community, we're working together as a team, and we're becoming an integral part of a society which is made up of a collective group of individuals where conversation matter. Well, on one angle, this might sound like, all these are very little things. Why should we even talk about it? We should talk about it because nobody else is talking about it. Today, we are busy advancing ourselves in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And we are losing out on the critical aspects where humans in original are super excellent, have been found to be super excellent, that is building relationships, having conversations. So going forward, you will start doing your higher education, you will start traveling, you will do your undergraduation in India, maybe you will have a chance to do your post graduation elsewhere. You will start working, you're going to meet diverse set of people. The only way you could make a magic happen is by having a genuine conversation. And like I mentioned in the beginning of this third story, where we Indian kids, we are being taught, that's part of our culture, that when someone talks, you try to nod your head to show that you're listening, or we try to look at the speaker in the eye because we are listening, or we try to summarize and paraphrase whatever the speaker told us in in a simplistic 2 or 3 sentences to prove you're listening. But friends, those kind of tips does not always make a logical sense. When you're listening, you do not have to prove that you're listening. So Celeste Hadley talks about 10 interesting tips for having effective conversations. And it's a wonderful TED talk to listen to. And these are all the talks, that, at least each story that I'm narrating by every slide, are things that I've heard and I really found useful. And I thought, maybe you will find it interesting too. And so we started with saying, okay, preparing for a better tomorrow, so the title be. Practically speaking, we do not have much of a control on tomorrow's things. But let's start by doing little things. And that starts with making up your bed every morning. It starts with not sweating all the little stuff. It starts with having simple conversations. Friends, at the end of the day, we're trying to learn to be who we originally are, being nice people. Friends, more than your skills can be learned. And character and attitude, those are things that are very natural and that cannot be learned in a classroom. That's more about the identity of who you and me are. And that will have a long-term impact besides the choice of curriculum that you would choose to pursue going forward. However, now these were all the little things which I believe will make a larger impact on your lives. And there are also other things now, leaving the little things aside. If you would ask me to share some practical experiences or the practical tooling that I found useful, which I think you will find useful as well as part of your learning experience, I'm going to suggest you a few things. So, most of you would have an eventual ambition to join. Okay, maybe I would want to start my career as a software engineer, or I want to join a company as large as Google or Microsoft, or want to join a large e commerce company like Flipkart, Amazon. So, all of these uh, large companies, at least for their SD roles, they expect you to be strong in certain aspects. They expect you to be strong in data structures, algorithms. And one of the interesting tool that I've found worth sharing is Lead Code. Well, I'm not associated with any of these products or links that I'm sharing with you. It's just that the things that I found useful. Friends, if you want to join Google like 4 years down the line, you have to start preparing today. Again, well, despite the fact you want to join that company or not, I also believe on the other side, being able to solve problems using a programming language is of a critical importance to every individual. Just like the fact using a computer is becoming a day to day normal, irrespective of the kind of profession you're getting into, being able to write code, being able to understand code helps you a longer way looking at the direction where the industry is heading. And being able to practice something on a platform, something like Lead Code, gives you an opportunity to think, to be able to solve problems. The next, for the rest of your life, you will be solving problems either for yourself or for your friends, family, or for your customers. And you should have well, we should have the ambition, or we should have the attitude of, we should like solving problems. And this place is a very good platform to get started. And I'm not sure what each of you would find interesting. I did engineering without knowing what engineering was. But today, friends, you have the combined knowledge of any generation put together that have lived in this world so far. So today, there are no questions that you cannot find answers to. So before you would go ahead and choose whatever you want to do next, be it arts, be it science, be it humanities, engineering, medicine, it doesn't matter what you choose. It is critical that you have an answer as to why you're choosing certain things that you're choosing. You're at the critical point where you're making choices, friends. And when we make choices, there are certain things that are very clearly represented and known, and there are a lot of things that we do not know. And what I'm suggesting is, irrespective of the college that you choose, of the course that you're wanting to study, please be clear why you want to do that. I want to do engineering because it's a gateway to the United States, or is it a gateway to a company as large as Google? Let me tell you today, no large companies, at least things are so rapidly changing, at least on the hiring sector, as I talk to a lot of recruitment managers. Today, it doesn't matter you graduate from Harvard or you graduate from elsewhere. All that matters is, are you capable of getting the job done? Are you that nice person that people want to work with? Earlier interview patterns where, the hiring manager used to interview, and if he finds you're okay, you're okay. And if then there is a following conversation with the HR, and then it is done. But today, interview rounds are getting extensive. People want to know who you are as a person. People want to test your culture fit. You and I could be a great problem solver, but in terms of culture and identity, if I cannot relate myself to the team and the team cannot relate themselves to us, then we do not become a better match for that position. And that's also the whole reason why I wanted to start sharing with you about all these little things and give you an opportunity to hear thoughts and opinions from these great speakers that I mentioned, because it kind of inculcates on what is being expected out of each of us. Very soon, the paradigm shift from being an individual performer. So you're at your college, I'm sorry, you're at school and you will move to college and then you will go further. And this all talks about your individual skills, right? So your score largely depends on what you study. Your project marks depends on what you and the other couple of your friends will deliver as a project. But very soon, this will bubble down and it will expand to include a larger team. So we need to learn how do we work together with others, people from different cultures, people from different upbringing. So eventually coming back, when you choose something, be certain why you want to choose that. And this YouTube channel called Crash Course is something that I found, and I find it super interesting. It teaches you history, it teaches you computer science. So, no matter what major you choose, check if there is a crash course available on that. Finish that crash course. Check if you enjoy the content. And if you really, really like it, go for it. Friends, the next 3 years or 4 years or 5 years, whatever you're going to invest is going to be crucial, not because of what you're going to learn, because who you're going to meet. You're going to make a lot of relationships, and maybe you will find your next husband and your wife in your uh, next place of education. And so it is getting critical and critical about what choices do we make and why do we make it. So at least the second part that I wanted to share with you is this YouTube channel called Crash Course. I really found it interesting, and maybe you will too. And so take a look. And there's also another channel called Kurz Gesagt, which is a German studio. And the meaning of Kurz Gesagt is in a nutshell. So they explain a lot of complicated topics from solar storms to quantum theory in a simple and easy way. So today there's a lot of the content that me and my generation or my friends did not have access to. Other content that you have access to, like 10 years ahead of 10 years ahead of your times. So that's quite interesting to be able to make use of all such resources, you know, uh, to make good and intelligent choices. So I told you about why coding is important, irrespective of the branch of study you choose. So it gives you an idea of problem solving. So take a look at Lead Code, take a look at Crash Course in YouTube, the channel Crash Course, and also take a look at Course Kesat. Something I've found useful, and maybe you will too. And friends, learning a programming language is also something that I'm finding important for anyone choosing any curriculum of education these days. Today, there is a lot of conversations and work happening in the context of data science, artificial intelligence, and all of that is grounded on being able to simple code on be it Python or any other object oriented or functional languages. So there's this teacher called Mosh Hamadani that I found him very interesting. It doesn't matter about what level of education you have. Listening to this guy, being able to learn that language, I find it more easier to follow and understand. So maybe you will choose medicine, but then there's going to be a lot of data points that you will have to go through, and you will find a programming language like Python or something else useful. So take a look at that. And a larger part of your, be it from your education to your job search, a lot of things depends on how you're gonna write stuff, friends. So we need to be trained to be able to present thoughts in a clear and concise manner. So again, one of the disadvantages that I found myself in is most of the time, if I wanted to secure 16 marks, the answer should have been spread over 4 pages. If I need to get 8 marks, the answer should be spread over 3 pages. So again, uh, I would not want to make it sound like I'm complaining, but it's just that the way that the system has been designed and architected is putting us through a situation where we have to be elaborate, where we have to be detailed about a lot of things. But the moment you get into yeah, the moment you get into a working environment, you will be expected to present your thoughts very precisely. Get to the point is what people keep saying. There is no history required, there is no future required. This the only part that's important is what does it presently mean to me? What do I have for it? So what's in it for me? So again, to be able to develop such skills, you will have to start writing. There is also something I'm closely sharing with people who are designing curriculum and people who are in the teaching profession, to encourage students to be able to submit their assignments as blogs, give them an opportunity to write and record their work somewhere where they can point back to. So today, if I'm asking you to write an assignment on Einstein's E is equal to mc square, which is one famous derivation all around the world, like all of you know, what is more important is the fact. Okay, so if this assignment is given, and if you're going to copy paste a Wikipedia page of E is equal to mc square, that's going to be the most disinteresting piece of content. All that matters is what would you think about E is equal to mc square? What do you think it is? Friends, if we cannot break any concept into its smallest pieces, being able to explain to a 6-year old, we have not understood the concept ourselves. Moral of the story again, to be able to precisely present and communicate, well, our examination pattern is not helping much. So I'm asking, let's help ourselves by writing content. Take a look at a platform like Medium, take a look at a platform like dev.to, where there are a lot of writers, yeah, aging anywhere between 15 and over. They're writing about content, about what they think, what they like. So, well, that's an interesting platform to take a look at. Maybe after you're looking to pursue, now moving to the next, recommendation that I have. Let's say you want to pursue a course on, say, visual design, user experience, user interface development. So these kind of things require a lot of creativity and creative thinking. So a lot of product development companies hire user experience designers. And if you look at the what would next Facebook look like, what would the next Snapchat look like, so these kind of design inspirations, it's actually nicer to be able to start looking into people who are designing such stuff. And if you want to derive design inspirations, be it for a simple notebook where you're writing notes, how to write notes, you can start deriving design inspirations on right from writing notes to until designing larger products. Take a look at inspirations at dribble.com or pinterest.com. If you look for architecture, if you look for product design, if you look for handwriting, there's gonna be a lot of inspirations around there. So how everyone in the rest of the world are doing stuff is something always good to know. If I'm cutting onions, it's always nicer to be the best onion slicer in the world. So yesterday I was watching this video of a cook whose whose skill on slicing onions is being viewed by over millions of people around the world. So it doesn't matter what we do. It's quite important that we are absolutely good at doing what we're doing. And the other platforms that I find interesting, of course, on how do you pitch your ideas, how do you pitch the next big thing. If you look at the presentations and Kickstarter and GoFundMe, all these campaign platforms, you could see how people are sharing their ideas, and it gives an experience of how you and me, when we start conversing with someone, making a pitch, should exactly be doing it. This has been a great learning platform. Friends, eventually, these are all the platforms that I found interesting. Maybe I could request the meeting organizers to share this slide along with the certificate or whatever, uh, in a way that's accessible to you. Maybe go through these things. All that matters in the bigger picture is to pick up simple things and be good at those simple things. all the larger parts of the story, all the larger part of the piece will come by itself to fit in the right place if you are good at doing all these simple things, what you're doing. If we cannot be great at simple things, friends, how can we imagine that we could be great at larger things? Eventually, I would like to present my closing thoughts. Maybe this is interesting for teachers and parents and people who are, you know, uh, educating their little ones. There was this salesman who went to his manager and said, it's been 3 months I've been trying to sell this product, and I absolutely convinced the customer. He told me he was going to buy the product, but after 3 months, he did not buy it. And then he goes on to say, well, I'm a salesman. All that I can do is take the horse to the water, but I cannot force the horse to drink the water. And then the manager of the salesman says, son, your job is not to make the horse drink the water. Your job is to make the horse feel thirsty. So all these senior participants, well, there could be a lot of complaints similar to this, that you could only take your children, that you could only take your students to the water, but it's up to them to drink. But no, that's not the case. I think it's our responsibility not to make them drink the water, but to make them feel thirsty. And with these closing thoughts, friends, I'm thanking you so much for your time. Uh, well, it's been a different experience for me to, look at a computer screen, and it felt like I'm talking to myself. But I really, really hope it at least made a little bit of, it carried a little bit of usefulness somewhere. And outside that, I'm going to wish you a fantastic day, and you will have a very, very blessed and a successful future. And when you do so, I'll be really glad if you drop me a note. My name is Raj. My email ID is rajkumar@outlook.com. You can put it on the chat. Stay in touch, send a note wherever you are. We'll be just glad that you're successful. Thank you so much.
Yes, so thank you so much. That was really a wonderful session, actually. And we convey our heartfelt thanks to you for sharing your valuable knowledge with us, sir.
I'm really glad. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. So we have a few questions from the participants. Shall we take it up?
Sure. Is there a way how I can see all the participants? All I see is my presentation screen.
Okay, like there'll be an icon called participants at the bottom.
Yeah.
So if you click on that, the list of participants will be displayed there, sir.
Okay. So I cannot see it as a panel. I mean, a grid of viewers.
No, actually, the
I
video has
have to.
been disabled for the participants.
Okay.
They have not switched on their videos. That's why.
Oh, okay. Cool. Thank you.
Yes, sir. So the first question, sir, uh,
Mm-hmm.
if I am an introvert, what steps should I take to become an extrovert?
Okay. That's a good question. Friends, I think I have I am an introvert sometimes and I'm an extrovert other times. So there's also another term called ambivert. So where you're a mix of introvert and an extrovert. Well, well, it's quite a hard question. I'm really thinking. I do not have a direct answer, but what I would rather say is it's important to us as a community to be able to understand what kind of a trait a person possesses. So maybe I'm being an introvert, it does not help very much to be able to start a communication because I'm an introvert. But then I think the community as a whole, we have a shared responsibility to make to help a person with to help a person with that kind of a character. It's not good or bad. uh, to feel inclusive, to be able to feel safe that he or she can share her opinions. A person is an introvert only in a certain setting, I believe. The same person may not be an introvert to his closest of friends. The same person may not be an introvert to his own family members. So I think it is the other way around. The responsibility lies to the larger community, to us, to make everyone feel inclusive and be able to share their opinions. And I think if I'm an introvert, I shouldn't force myself to, you know, to be someone that I'm not. But as a simple tip, if you want to get out of this, I'm not exactly, I don't think I'm very qualified, but then to have that close circle of friends where you have that trust to share, that's more important. And I think that's the first step. And who your friends are, what kind of safety environment that they create for you, that you're able to share what you feel, that makes it more useful. Friends, we all of us are introverts in some setting. I cannot talk as I could here when I'm put in a very different situation, in a very different setting. So do not worry about it. I think it's the responsibility of all of us to make you feel safe and be able to help you feel that you can share your opinions. I think it's a societal change, and individually, your responsibility is continue to be nice. You'll have those such nice friends coming to you, and you'll be able to share what you feel, if that helps.
Yes, sir. Thank you for the great answer. The next question: what is the work environment and culture like at Opportunities for a Better Tomorrow?
Okay, what is the culture going to look like, and what kind of opportunities do we have for a better tomorrow? Friends, I think most of the jobs that we are working, or any professional setting, for example, a people manager who is managing a lot of people under him, a customer service person who's a customer service person who's trying to answer a customer based question. So similarly, every single profession, um, that will move a level upstream. So whatever work that we are busy with will be moved a level upstream. So it will either move to a different, for example, let's say there are 5 levels in an organization, level 5 being the highest, and I'm doing a certain kind of a job only I can do. I think going forward, what happens is that particular job, that particular responsibility shifts one level lower so that the next immediate person can pick up that job. And similarly, the person who's doing a level 4 job, that job goes another level lower. So eventually, what happens is, friends, whatever profession that happens at the higher order will be democratized in such a way that you do not really have to have those 30 years of experience to be able to do that, but rather it goes over another level lower and lower because of the improvements in tooling and technology that we could see. And what kind of opportunities? I think a lot of people are talking about artificial intelligence, data science. I think that's quite a sector to keep an eye on, at least on the software development part of the industry. And well, my views are very limited to the software engineering world, so this is the most I would know. But I would also suggest you to, keep looking at multiple industries, healthcare, manufacturing, and all these different domains to have a better picture on where each of this individual industry is heading. Every industry is having its own advancements. They are each industry is progressing differently with the advancements in their own sector. For example, in automotives, there were cars that were running on petrol and diesel, and today we have Tesla and self-driving cars. So but fundamentally, all of these industries are grounded together, I think, towards a singular progressive path, which is based on artificial intelligence and data science. So that's a field that I would definitely suggest you to keep a stronger eye on.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The next question: how can I identify my exact passion, which I should take it as my career, if I'm interested in multiple activities?
Well, again, an interesting question. Uh, it's quite hard. Only time has to say. Maybe what I find interesting today, I will not find it interesting, 6 months down the line. But the best advantage that puts all of you in right now, you're very, very young. You're at least 10 years younger than me. And that gives you a 10 years that gives you a 10 years edge to experiment. I started taking my piano lessons after 28 years of my life, and I find it interesting today, and I'm continuing to do it, and I do not know how long it will I find it interesting. But you can experiment the same thing today. So what I'm saying is, if you have interest towards multiple things, one possible way to figure out is to experiment all of those multiple things. So if you have 10 things, write it down on a paper, write all the 10, pick the top three, start working on it. And 6 months down the line, if you're working out of the three, look at which is the one item that you're still working on. And that possibly is a area that you're passionate and interested in. But again, there is no concrete answer. It is something that you experiment and you learn, you experiment and you learn. So I,
Yes, sir, definitely. Yes, sir. The next question. If I'm placed in a company where I have to work on a platform in which I'm not interested, should I change my passion towards it or should I change my career?
okay. I think coming to a conclusion that you're not interested in something, that should be taken over time. Uh, let's say I'm brought up in I'm brought up in a South Indian culture, right? And if I'm presented with a Dutch cuisine or Dutch food for dinner, my inherent answer is going to be sorry, no. I would rather choose a South Indian cuisine over a Dutch cuisine because I'm used to a South Indian cuisine and I like it. But then, if you look at it, I'm making that decision implicitly, even without trying what it is. Maybe it is something that I'm gonna like. It's like a Netflix series that someone suggested you and you're not wanting to watch it. Maybe you want to give it a try and see how it is. But again, coming back to the Netflix example, there is a particular web series and someone is suggesting you, and you want to know if you have interest or you don't have interest. What do? You watch the first couple of episodes and you think, okay, this is good, not good, and then you make a decision. Let's say you make a decision that you don't like it. I think if you don't like it, you shouldn't do it. So you should sit down with your manager or the person who is responsible for you at the next higher level and help them understand that it is not something that you're wanting to do. Friends, today people are matured enough to understand. Today people are matured enough to understand that you do not, nobody can force anybody into things that they don't like, be it studies, be it food, be it your spouse. You cannot be forced into liking anything. If you don't like it, please talk about it, please be vocal about it, and I think that's the first step, and things will take you from there on. But moral of the story, you should definitely be doing something that you like. And side note, you will not like everything all the time, but that's also part of life. You need to understand. At least you shouldn't absolutely hate it.
Thank you for the great answer, sir. One last question. How do you motivate yourself as a student if you are a current generation student?
Well, pretty much the things that I shared with you today. Well, friends, if I have to put it super blunt, there is a certain kick in learning. So not being able to know something yesterday and being able to know that today makes a large emotional difference. It builds up your confidence. So I think what I will do, when I was your age, I did well. I was brought up in a very regular family with limited affordability, so I couldn't try and learn things that I wanted to learn simply because we couldn't afford the fees. And today, if I would have the same level of opportunities that I have, I think I will learn more. I would like to be good at something that I had no idea about yesterday, be it taking a piano lesson or doing dance classes or something else that I'm not good at, and I would try and pick up and learn. So that's what I would do if I were to learn today. And there's another thing that I would also do. I think the classroom learning experience should change. For example, today, most of the classrooms are talking about what Archimedes Principle is, what E is equal to MC square is. And I think that paradigm shift needs to happen, that classrooms should not talk what a concept is, but classrooms should start talking about why E is equal to MC square as E is equal to MC square. Why is it not something else? Why should I learn integration? Why should I learn differentiation? So I think today students have access to learn the what part of the concept themselves. There are tooling, there are people in their family who are more advanced than what our generations were. So today the what part of the knowledge can be easily acquired. I think the more critical part is why a certain thing is the way it is, and that's how a classroom environment should be. So I think I will, if I'm a student of these days, I will be very vocal to my professors, to my teachers, to start teaching us not what differentiation is, but why it is, and keep the classroom, set the classroom in a way that everybody should know differentiation. The entire idea of coming to the class is why we have to do it. Why can't I use another principle like a Fourier transformation instead of using this particular thing? So that's where a learning becomes interesting. And that's how I think we should learn together as a student community. And well, that's perhaps what I would want to share as an answer to this question.
That's great, sir. Thank you very much for taking up all our questions and answering them in a very great way.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Would you like to tell anything to our participants as a final thing?
Well, I think it's not an easy thing to stay in a call for 1 hour. You all have done that, so thank you so much. And if there is anything that you would like to ask or share, you can send it to my email, and maybe I'm gonna type my email ID in. And that's about it. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for accepting our invite and presenting a wonderful webinar today. I would like to thank our coordinator of today's webinar, Dr. S. Karunakaran, for arranging such a useful webinar for students. We thank all the participants for joining with us today. Hope you would have enjoyed the session well, and yes, all our questions have been answered by our speaker. Our upcoming webinar is on how to become an ethical hacker by Mr. Mohammad Adil Asfaq, cybersecurity specialist, Muscat Governorate, Oman, scheduled on June 13th from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. I request all faculties and students to attend the webinar and get benefited. Meet you all in the next session of our webinar series. The feedback form will be posted in our chat box. I request all the participants to fill up the feedback link with the correct email ID. The link for feedback and e-certificate will be posted in the chat box and YouTube live streaming page. Please fill the form and receive your e-certificates through email. And we request all the participants to fill up the feedback form with the correct email ID and within 30 minutes within the end of this session. This feedback link will not be shared through WhatsApp or through email. Thank you all for your participation. Stay safe.